host, Omar Shear. And last week we had a very special guest, Mr. Omar Du Bois, our brother. And this week we have a very special guest, but I won't tell you who it is. You have to stay tuned to learn who our special guest is this week. But before we begin the show, I wanted to talk about something that has revolutionized actually the publishing industry, and that is books, ebooks. So many of us, instead of buying books now, we go online and we search and we find PDF versions or Word documents of our favorite books. And we read those books on devices like our iPads. Some of us have Kindles, our Samsung, the different Samsung tablets, and many different types of tablets that are available out there. So it's become very convenient to have an entire library on a device like this, rather than having bookshelves full of books. Now, for those hardcore book readers, they'll never get rid of those libraries they have in the home. But for some of us who are on the go and we're constantly spending hours in traffic and going back and forth from place to place, this is definitely a benefit and a great innovation for us. Now, for those of you who are interested in possibly writing books, there are some very great services out there to help people that want to self-publish. Now, for many of us, we think that maybe that's too far ahead, or that's something that is out of our reach, but actually it's not. There are many services online that can help you take your book that you typed and make it into a hard copy, and you can sell it online. Now, some of those services, for example, we have a service called CreateSpace, createspace.com. And at createspace.com, you can upload your book, write your description and everything to it, and sell that book on Amazon.com. Actually, CreateSpace is owned by Amazon.com. Also, there's another website that you can go to called Lulu.com. And Lulu is spelled L-U, excuse me, Lulu.com. That's Lulu.com. And at Lulu.com, you can do something similar. Take your book that you wrote in Microsoft Word or whatever software you use to write or type. You can take that document, format it a bit, and put it up there, and they will create a book for you. Now, here's the interesting part about it. Not only can you sell the ebook, which would be a digital copy of your book, but you can also sell a hard copy with the services that they provide called print on demand. Print on demand means, rather than a long time ago, we would have boxes of merchandise in our closets or in the living room stacked up in boxes if you sell merchandise, and that would be very difficult to get rid of over time. But now you can sell a book on demand. So whenever someone orders it, they print it, and then they send it out. So with that being said, try those websites out if you're a writer. And we have a very special guest later that is an author, and it's someone you probably didn't think was publishing books or writing books. But stay tuned for that. And now we're going to discuss, inshallah, internet business. Let's go. Last week, in our section of internet business, we discussed email marketing a bit. And we didn't get much time to go into it deeply, but I think I covered it in a general way. Now we want to discuss, after you have a product and you have a website and you have a way to communicate with your customers, which would be your email marketing system, now it's time to take the money from the customer. Now, how would you do that if you didn't have something called a payment processor, something that's going to process the payments as the customer comes into the store, which is your website? So today we're going to go over some payment processors, and we'll talk a bit about fulfillment, because fulfillment, I'm very passionate about fulfillment. Even though I do many projects outside, after I complete the project, it's up to the business owner to take over that process, and I'm not involved anymore. But first, before we talk about fulfillment, let's talk about payment processors. There are many different ways that you can accept payment. The most famous of them are PayPal. You can use a PayPal account, paypal.com. You get a PayPal account and you can create a button. You can put it on your website and you can take payment that way. Also, you have tocheckout.com. That's an example because there are many services like tocheckout. Actually, if you go to Google, you can type in payment processors and you get a big list. But these are the ones that I've personally worked with, and that is why I'm recommending them to you if you plan on selling something online. So that's tocheckout, the number 2, checkout.com. Also, there's a website called Money Brokers, which is good for those who are working internationally, that you can collect money from different countries and things like this. The same with tocheckout, but Money Brokers is another option for you. Also, if you don't want to deal with the direct online transactions, which of course I would recommend now in this time in 2013, you should be to a point where you can automate things on your website by having these payment processors and having these options available to people who want to buy right away. But you can offer alternate payment options like Western Union. You can use Western Union as a payment processor. Basically, they go to the Western Union that's in their local city. They send that money over to you, and you go collect it at the Western Union in your country. Also, or your city. Also, there's a similar service called MoneyGram. It's similar to Western Union. So you can use either one of these services. The idea is to get the money from point A to point B. Also, you can do bank transfer. And again, getting the money from point A to point B. And then you can do the check by mail. If you have a good mailing system in your country, you can always ask someone to send you a check by the mail. Now, all of these last options are not the best options because when you make it more difficult for people to purchase your things, then they tend to, the idea and the enthusiasm of buying whatever you're offering tends to go away over time. So if you can get that impulse, that person, they want it and they get it right away, that's always the best. And you do that through having a payment processor that takes debit cards and things like this. Now, with that being said, we have to talk about fulfillment for a minute because fulfillment is one of the most important parts after you have completed the sale. That means fulfillment means that you deliver whatever it is you promised to the customer. They paid you the money. Now you have to fulfill whatever you promised. Now, in this subject is a very deep subject and it'd be difficult to cover right now, but I have to mention it after you take the payment because most people fall short on this. They promise things and they don't deliver. And many of us are guilty of it. And in many projects I've worked on, they've promised the world and only delivered a handful of sand. They didn't deliver what they said they would deliver, but they've already taken the money. And of course, this is not how we do things as Muslims. If there's a reason why you can't fulfill, then you need to explain that to the customer. You need to be honest with the customer. You need to have a contact with the customer so that you can tell them, I'm sorry, we don't have this thing available. Can we supplement it with this thing? Or whatever the case is. But fulfillment is very important. And fulfillment is going to be the determining factor of whether a customer will do business with you again. If they had a bad experience the first time, then it'll be difficult to get them to do business with you a second time. So remember to fulfill, but not only fulfill exactly what you said, but even overfulfill. Throw something extra in there. And it could be in your benefit if you have other products or services, you can throw a sample of that along with what you originally promised. And that will make the customer feel like they have gotten the best deal for their money. So when you contact them again using the email system we talked about before, they will be more open to buy from you again. So getting a repeat customer is much easier than having to get a completely new customer that doesn't know you at all. That being said, we're going to go ahead and take a short break, and inshallah after the break we'll have our very special guest, and I won't tell you who it is. It'll be a surprise for you, inshallah ta'ala. So stay tuned, and I'll see you after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome back to Tech Talk. As I mentioned earlier, we have a very special guest, and going along with the theme of this show, we're talking about ebooks and ebook publishing and print-on-demand publishing online, and the relationship between publishing books now in this day and time and the internet. So we have a very special guest, and you all know him from Let's Talk and Viewers Pulse and Ummah Tonight, Malik Evangelatos. And if you didn't know, Malik has published a book because it's called Between Two Worlds, and he'll talk about the book today. So I have a few questions for you, Malik.
Thank you for having me, brother.
First of all, why read and write literature? Isn't it a waste of time?
I say, and Allah knows best, that whatever skills we have, we should use them as long as they're halal and permissible in a way that pleases Allah, and that this ummah needs professionals in every field. And like I said, Allah knows best, but I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that many of the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, were poets, including Hassan ibn Thabit, may Allah be pleased with him, who was called the poet of the Prophet, as well as all the great scholars of this ummah, Imam Shafi, may Allah be pleased with him, and many of them, may Allah have mercy on all of them, were masters of the Arabic language. So I think it's as long as it's permissible, the content, and we use it to serve Allah and to propagate Islam, I think it's a good idea to do it.
So you wrote a novel, is that
Yes, I recently completed a novel, which you can find on Amazon.com, and I use CreateSpace, and I heard you talking about that earlier, and it works really well. You don't have to have any money up front to do it. All you have to do is dedicate yourself to writing a novel, and you can do it. My goal, Brother Omar, is to create a whole fiction, a new genre of fiction that is permissible and beneficial to Muslim people, so parents and children and Muslim people can enjoy fiction, and also create a fiction, a genre of fiction that benefits non-Muslims and pushes them and directs them towards Islam in a subtle way. So that was my goal in writing this book, and I want to advise all the people at home that you can do it. All you have to do to write a novel, in my opinion, considering that you have Amazon.com, is organize your time correctly. And that's really important, and organize a novel. Just make a simple plot line, the beginning, the end, the climax. Think about the message you want to impart to the people, and begin to make a character list, okay? Round characters, the characters that are really important in the novel, like the protagonist, and flat characters, people you use along the way. There's a lot of things to think about in writing a novel. Setting as well, location. It can be done with Amazon.com, CreateSpace.com, with the will of Allah, and a lot of hard work, inshallah.
So tell us about the story. Tell us about the novel.
Okay,
what is it about?
Okay, well, first of all, it's not my personal story to Islam, which is great. There's a lot of books out there like that, and I plan to write that at some time, inshallah. But this one is about a young man who goes through. He's a young man who had just graduated high school in the United States of America. He's into trouble a little bit. He's a Greek American. Like myself. So of course, it's a fiction story, but it's built on I say it's a fiction story built on nonfiction because I drew heavily from my personal experience and the experience of my friends. So basically, this character, George, he travels to Greece where he finds his cousin, who instead of going to Greece to have fun and go to discos and go to the beach and do all this bad stuff, because he's not Muslim, because he's a Greek Orthodox Christian, he begins, his cousin takes him through northern Greece, exploring Ottoman and Islamic historical sites. And then his cousin reveals to him in the novel, in a small cabin in the mountains of northern Greece, he reveals to him that he has accepted Islam. He shows him a copy of the Quran and the Prophet's Prayer, a book written by Sheikh Muhammad Nasruddin al-Albani, may Allah have mercy on his soul. And he begins to think about this. And it's a long story from there. Of course, I encourage the readers, if they can, to get it online and read it.
So who are the main characters?
The main characters, of course, is George Evangelatos. I gave him my last name because it's a common Greek name.
Okay.
And George, this was a common Greek name as well. He's the main character. He's like most American kids. He goes through an identity crisis. Is he Greek? Is he American? What's the purpose of life? What is the meaning? This kind of sparks his interest in Islam. But however, when he returns to the United States, he becomes distracted by his friends and influences in his life, negative influences, the other characters in the book. One of those named is Gordon, and one is Duke. And he forgets what he learned with his cousin. He forgets about the spiritual experience he had, and he forgets about those Islamic books he had, and he begins doing quasi-legal things. He becomes dishonest, and he really gets away, far away on a track, and that's not positive. Somewhere along the line there, he meets an African American in Westwood, Los Angeles, where he was living at that time, who was involved in a group called the Masons. So this sparked his interest again in religion and things like that. And after talking to this man, he decided this was the wrong path, but he decided there was a right path. He decided there was a creator of the universe, and that creator has given everyone the intellect to find the right way. So he went back to his apartment in Westwood, and he remembered those books that his cousin gave him. He began reading those books, and if you want to know what happens, if you want to know if he accepts Islam or not, you have to get online and read it.
You're not going to tell us.
I'm not going to tell us now. You got to get online. I think we have it on www.betweentwoworldsbook.com or Amazon.com. Perhaps you can check it out, inshallah.
So tell us a little bit about the process. This was your first time writing the book, right?
Yes, and you know what? It was remarkably easy. All you have to do is say Bismillah and organize your time. I work full time. I have a family. I have children, by the grace of Allah, and I'm married. And I don't have a lot of time. But really, if you dedicated 30 minutes of quiet time, go into another room with your children asleep and just focus, and open up that computer, and don't open up the internet. I even unplug my DSL cable, because what do? I get online, I get on Facebook, I check emails. If you have 30 minutes in just a blank Word document, then you can do a lot. And I encourage people, Brother Omar, as well, write, even when you think it's not that good, because you need material to work with. Like a potter works with clay, you have to have some material, so you can go back and edit it later. Write. Keep a notepad with you, or if you have an iPad or a phone or something like that, when you're going throughout your day on the bus, driving to work, write that stuff down. Those experiences that you don't think are interesting, and people that you may not think are interesting, people will think they're interesting. So, and always think of, read about the process of writing literature. You have to draw people in from many angles. For example, I made this a novel, a coming-of-age novel, as well as a novel of scenery. I'm from San Francisco, California, or this area, so I really want to describe the beautiful mountains and hills and the cityscape of San Francisco. I'm from Ukiah, California as well. I want to describe the pear orchards in the Ukiah Valley as well. I took them to all through northern Greece, my father's home country. I took them to the streets of Cairo, where I live now, and to the traffic jam-filled streets of Cairo. I took them through the Prophet city, peace be upon him, in Medina, where he meets a lot of interesting Muslim characters and reverts to Islam. And of course, we took them through the forbidden streets of Mecca. So there's a lot you have to make the book, you have to tie in readers from lots of angles. And of course, the underlying, this is for the sake of Allah, so the underlying cause here is the da'wah, and we want to give people the message of Islam in not a direct, in a subtle way, and let them think about Islam if they're not Muslims. Or if they're Muslims, let them appreciate Islam, the Islam that they have. So,
for a person that has a hobby of writing, or writes on blogs or something like this, is this something that they can do? Is it something they can?
In fact, I know a lot of authors, they publish blogs. I think it's very important to develop a readership. I read online, I haven't done this myself. If you write on a blog, it's important, and a good friend told me, write on a blog, create a readership, spend some work, give some effort in that, and that way when you do publish your novel, you'll have sort of a readership base following to give your book to. So of course it's important to write blogs, articles where you can. The internet's amazing. You can get your stuff published online, and so I think we should take advantage of that if you can. Inshallah.
So you can order a soft copy and a hard copy.
Inshallah, and it's amazing. So nowadays with these indie books, there's no reason if you're an aspiring writer not to publish a book. This took me it took me my whole life, but really focusing on it, it took me less than a year.
Wow.
To do. So if you work hard, you can achieve it. I uploaded my book using createspace.com. It took me, after I finished the novel, of course, it took me about 3 hours. 3 hours to go through the uploading process, pick the cover of the book, the size of the book you want, get it on, probably, 3 hours. It was online. It takes 24 hours to get available. And after that, people can purchase the hard cover, or the hard copy, or an ebook using their Kindle. It's available on both. So if you want to spend just a couple dollars and use your Kindle, you can do that, or you can order the book itself at no expense to you.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's amazing.
Wow. So what about the artwork and everything? Did you have to bring a graphic designer or something like that?
I thought at first I was thinking old-fashioned. I thought I have to go to a printing press and have somebody design the book and print out copies and have a stock in my apartment and sell them like hand in hand in the store. My good friend told me these days are over. These days, he said, get that out of your mind, okay? He said, now you upload this stuff to Amazon. They have a bunch of designs there that you can choose from. If you know how to use PDF, or you have a friend that can do some artwork for you, or you want to pay to do that, you can, and you simply you just simply upload the PDF file. I simply use a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge because that's where I'm from. I wanted the bridge because it's you know, the book is titled Between Two Worlds, because I felt like after accepting Islam, somehow at first you feel like you're between two worlds, and you're kind of like on a bridge between two places until you kind of find your ground. So I was at the Golden Gate Bridge there, and which I just a basic picture of the Golden Gate Bridge, but it's a very simple process. You can use the designs that are on Amazon.com, or you can bring your own.
So you didn't need to have a graphic designer or someone to typeset the book or anything like that?
Not at all. I don't know anything about computers, and I'm scared to be right here on the set of Tech Talk. But I did it all by myself, and it's really amazing. It's like online shopping. You click what size would you like your book? 6x9 is standard. What color paper do you want? What do you want? You want this kind of copy? You know, it's really, really easy. It's really simple, and I encourage everybody to just set a goal for yourself. It's personal development. If you're a writer, then you can do it.
Right. What about typesetting?
Typesetting, all that is you have options there as well. I picked the most basic way. I figured, you know, the presentation of the book is important, but I figured it's the content that's the most important. And if you work really hard to give your readers a good product, they should appreciate that. It's 474 pages. I pray that Allah make it beneficial for people.
Mashallah.
So I hope that I really, towards the last couple of months, I was just revising it, kind of obsessing over it. So I hope the readers, at least, if it's not the best written novel, perhaps they, and Allah knows best, perhaps they can appreciate the effort I put in. So that's what I say, you know, focus on the content itself.
Basically what I'm trying to get out of you is this something that anyone can do?
Brother,
like, did you have to make a table of contents?
Brother, it's so easy. Thank you for asking me that question, brother. Anybody can do this. Like I said, all you have to do is, by the will of Allah, and dedicate your time. You know, I love to read books, you know, and I always said I would write a book. But I never did it because every time you open up the computer, you have a distraction. There's many excuses in life. Until I told my friend, I said, I want to write a book. He said, do it, and don't stop until you finish it, inshallah. And that really hit me. I said, you know what, I can do this. I can do it. So, you know, there's blessed times in the day where everybody's free. For example, after Fajr prayer. Everybody's sleeping. You can dedicate 30 minutes. Are you that tired? If you dedicate 30 minutes a day for 10 months, you would have, if you weren't complete, if it wasn't finished, you would have a lot of work completed and go from there. One thing I want to recommend, though, by the way, brother, is you have to have someone proofread your book, have somebody edit it, because it might be really bad, but you think it's great, or you might think it's great, and it's really, I mean, you know, because it's probably somewhere in the middle. You definitely need a set of eyes, perhaps more than one person to look over it, have someone else edit it, and then don't over-obsess about it, just put it online, and may Allah help it benefit people, inshallah.
Give us an idea of your schedule for writing the book. For
writing the book, you know, really, towards the end, I took, you know, I spent, you know, complete days, Fridays, my days off. I spent, you know, 7-8 hours in front of the computer towards the end because I really wanted to just give it one more proofread. And every time I give one more proofread, I'd add something in it and change something. You get a little bit obsessive about it. But really, I would say half an hour a day. If you can dedicate half an hour a day, I mean, that's a lot. How much time do you spend watching TV? I'm speaking to myself. How much time do I spend watching TV? How much time do I spend checking my email when it's not necessary? You know, I check my email 60 times a day, right? Or Facebook. I know Facebook's not bad if you're using it the right way, but how much time do you really spend on there? I say take your laptop, take out the internet cord or the USB stick, and just give yourself 30 minutes a day, and within a year you can have a book on Amazon.com, inshallah.
Malik, I'd like to thank you for stopping by Tech Talk. And for more information about this subject, you can visit us at huda.tv/techtalk. And also, you can send any comments or questions to techtalk@huda.tv. Again, we'd like to thank Malik for coming. And his website is called BetweenTwoWorldsBook.com. BetweenTwoWorldsBook.com. All one word, I guess you say. Okay. And with that being said, I'd like to thank everyone for watching this episode of Tech Talk. And of course, we have, inshallah, more surprises in the weeks to come. And with that, I'd like to say to everyone, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.